Coming up, it takes months to grow and seconds to eat. We speak to a New Mexico certified chili farmer who is sustaining her people's practices. We learn how a family story becomes a play about a Muscogee hero. And ICT's managing editor takes a trip home, his first since the pandemic. We have those interviews, plus headlines ahead on the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
The ICT Newscast is sponsored by the Indian Land Tenure Foundation, a nonprofit organization serving American Indian nations and people in the recovery and control of their rightful homelands. On the web at iltf.org.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Amadawa Hopa. I am Leah Sanchez, and we thank you for joining us. We start today in Pennsylvania, where 4 ancestors were repatriated from the cemetery at the shuttered Carlisle Indian Industrial School. Last week, the remains of the 4 students who died at the nation's first federal Indian boarding school were returned for reburial with a ceremony in their homelands. Bo Neal, a Northern Arapaho, Lonnie Shorty, Blackfeet, Amos Laframboy, Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate, and Edward Upright, Spirit Lake were returned. A 5th student from the Puyallup tribe, Edward Spot, was slated for repatriation, but the remains uncovered were determined not to be his, according to the U.S. Army. The remains were reinterred at Carlisle. The Army has operated the site since the school closed in 1918. Some 136 Native children remained buried at the Carlisle Cemetery, according to the Army. They are among thousands of students who died while attending federally run Indian boarding schools. In Ohio, tribal leaders are celebrating the recent and major designation of a sacred site, effectively putting it on the same standing as the pyramids and Machu Picchu. Now on the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites are the Hopewell Ceremonial Earthworks. The application was approved last week during a meeting in Saudi Arabia. The massive earthworks are made up of 8 sites spread across 90 miles. It is noteworthy not just for its enormous scale, but also for its geometric precision. The sites are also accurate in astronomy, as they encode all 8 lunar standstills over an 18-year cycle. Chief Glenna Wallace of the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma said she felt pure excitement and exhilaration when she learned the news. Our ancestors were true geniuses, she added. State leaders said they now anticipate the new designation to bring even more visitors to Ohio to see the earthworks. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Leah Sanchez spends countless hours tending to the land on the traditional homelands of the Isleta people in New Mexico. That's because she is a New Mexico certified chili farmer. I sat down with her recently to discuss this year's crop and what exactly goes into the food that has sustained her nation, my nation, and many others for centuries.
So this year has been a little bit challenging compared to previous years. So not quite seeing the crop that I've kind of come to expect, but nonetheless very thankful that I still have a crop and that I still have chili to harvest and to share with people, to feed their families, and to share a little bit of the enjoyment that it brings to them.
You are a New Mexico certified chili farmer. What exactly does a recognition like that mean?
So the New Mexico Certified Chili Program that I'm a part of is a verification program that's run in partnership with the New Mexico Chili Association. And what they do is they come out and they verify that the chili I'm growing is actually grown in New Mexico. And the part of that is to, protect our state pride, our heritage, because everyone has heard of hatch chili. And so there's a lot of, people, it's a great marketing tactic. So people that, might not grow in hatch, but because there's that name recognition, they'll use that hatch name for their chili, the chili that's grown outside of the state and even outside of the country. So the New Mexico Certified Chili Program ensures that New Mexico chili is really New Mexico chili.
Over the summer, we saw record-breaking heat waves and extreme weather all across the nation. Can you describe for us the hard work that goes into growing the chilies and having to brave the elements in order to do so?
I don't plant till about mid-May, and I go off of kind of what the old timers would use as their date. So after Mother's Day, around between May 15th and May 20th. And so basically the thought behind that from the old timers was that it can still snow up to the middle of May. So, after that point, you're pretty safe from frost or any, last minute dips in temperature. This year, went by my normal schedule, planted late May, a little different. It didn't quite warm up until, first part of June. So that was a little different. And then it just got really, really hot. And it gets hot. We're in the desert, but not this kind of sustained heat of, 100 plus days, day after day after day. And so that was really hard. But the chili toughed it out. I did kind of notice, now coming up at the end of harvest season, that the plants were just a little bit behind where I would expect them to be. I would attribute that to the heat, as well as the fact that in addition to it being extremely hot, it was extremely dry this summer. And we've gotten kind of some late rainstorms now within the past few weeks, and it has been so wonderful to finally get that rain, but it's a little too late from where we're at in the season. But again, thankful, I'll take it. But it's just been really tough growing conditions with the weather this year.
Leah, I'd love to hear the story of how you first got into farming.
I started probably, I don't know, maybe 7-8 years ago, just as kind of a home garden. I was like, this is fun. Just some kind of squash and whatever vegetables, cucumbers, a few chili plants. And then the next year, bought a few more chili plants, still a home garden. And then something kind of just was, gave me the thought of, I think I could really do this, and I think I could do bigger. And every year just got a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger to where I'm at now. And I do probably about a 1/4 acre of chili the past 2 years. This year, probably a little bit over a 1/4 acre, but at least a 1/4 acre the past 2-3 years. And chili farming is something that's been in my family for a very long time. My great grandfathers, both on my mom and my dad's side, were some of the most prolific chili farmers in Isleta. I grew up, hearing stories about them from everyone in the community, and people in the community still talk about them to this day, and just seeing just their chili fields and how much chili they would have and all their ristras that would be hanging off the side of their house. So it's part of that is really cool that I get to carry on that legacy.
For you, do you think that being a chili farmer is a way to honor your ancestors?
I think it is. I think growing food and farming really is, because one, it teaches you a deeper understanding of our traditional values and our customs and our traditions, things like patience and understanding and resilience, because I can be very impatient, but chili farming has taught me how to be patient. Because I can't make the plants grow any faster than they want to grow. I can't I can't make I can't make the water flow faster or stronger. Sometimes it's just learning to be patient. And I think farming is probably one of our truest practices of our ancestors' teachings.
At the risk of making all of us hungry, can you tell us what your favorite thing to make with chili is?
Oh man. I will have to say I am a red chili person, also just because of just the time and the effort that it takes to get a good red. So in that case, and I know this isn't talking food necessarily, but one of my favorite things to make are chili ristras. I love to Thai chili. So aside from a good red chili, I do love some fresh roasted green chili cut up, mashed up with some tomatoes on a fresh tortilla.
That sounds so delicious. Very quickly here, you mentioned a ristra. For someone who maybe doesn't know what that is, how do you describe it?
So a ristra is a string of Thai red chili. Most commonly you see it these days for decoration, hanging out outside people's porches, but traditionally they were a form of food storage. So we tie the red chili up in the fall and hang it to dry and have our supply of chili to hold us over till the next harvest season.
Well, Leah, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Leah Sanchez will be competing in the 2023 New Mexico Chili Taste Off on October 7th, and we wish her the very best of luck. Mary Catherine Nagel is an attorney and playwright. Her stories have explained complicated concepts from federal Indian law to the legal implications of climate change. This summer, she took on an even greater challenge. That is, writing about her family, and in case that wasn't enough, as the actor in a one-woman play. ICT's Mark Trahant talked with Mary Catherine and her husband, Jonadev Chowdhury. Here they talk about the play, The Far End, the story of Jean Hill Chowdhury.
I never met my mother-in-law, Jean Hill Chowdhury, but I've read her plays. I've read her poems that she wrote on the back of McDonald's receipts, the letters she wrote to Congress, the newspaper clippings that recount her incredible life, her handwritten notes in the margins of Supreme Court decisions.
There is a bit of autobiography in every work of fiction or nonfiction. We add a story, a memory, a reminder of a path. Then there could be a twist. How about this? A play about a playwright who happens to be your mother-in-law, telling a story that is both intimate and universal.
Well, Jonadev asked me why I wrote plays about pretty much every other tribal nation that exists except Muscogee Nation. And I said, well, I'm happy to write a play about Muscogee Nation. What play should that be? And he said, I think you should write a story about my mom.
That's not true.
Yep.
It was your idea to do about Mom.
Well, okay.
I was like,
I guess that's
time
true.
to write a story about a foundational global civilization. And you're like, that's right.
That's right. So initially the debate was why my plays were about other tribal nations and not Muscogee Nation. And I kept telling him, well, you're going to have to tell me what to write about. And I was researching Chitoharjo and other, really famous Muscogee leaders of Bothiahola. And actually then his father passed away and we were going through his father's house. And that's when we found the book that your dad wrote about your mom. Mm-hmm. And it's a really phenomenal 110-page handwritten story about her life. And reading that, that's when I knew I wanted to write a play about her life. Writing's very intimate, and I got to know her by reading her writing and then writing her story, but then also speaking her words on stage is a whole other level of intimacy, and acting it out is just something I never imagined I would do, but it's been an incredible experience.
Of course, I knew Mom in a very different way than most people knew her. I knew her as my mom. And so always appreciated and understood the work she did. But I think anybody who has a mom, which is most of us, can relate to how daunting it is to hear that we're going to be putting her life story on display for other people. But beyond that, we had talked a little bit about doing a story that provides a roadmap to young people to engage in activism in a meaningful way. And there are a lot of roadmaps that are out there. There's not one roadmap. But I have always thought of Mom's life being a roadmap for meaningful activism balanced with being a good mom and a good sister and a good daughter. And she never put her work ahead of the family, and I always appreciated that as a son. So having her story told was important to me, not just in terms of being Muscogee Creek or not just in terms of wanting there to be a good roadmap for activism, but so many folks who work in activism have these life balances that they have to navigate, and I thought Mom's story would be, you know, very informative to people who are kind of struggling with some of the decisions that have to be made. So I always tell people, yeah, Mom did some amazing things in her work and in her activism, but most importantly, she was a wonderful mom. I think one of the major takeaways from the play, and there's so many beautiful themes in it, is that the advances that our generation may be celebrating today are made possible by the work of all of our ancestors and the struggles of so many folks whose names we know, but so many more whose names we don't, to make these advances possible. So they talk about some of the play talks about the McGirt decision and the historic importance of it, but it also places McGirt in a long continuum of struggle that predates removal to Oklahoma and extends to the modern day, even past McGirt.
And one of those modern stories involves the Phoenix Indian School.
They're going to sell the school to a developer. Like the school I was forced to go to, native kids in Arizona were taken forcibly from their homes and sent to the Phoenix Indian School, where they were beaten if they did not speak English. Many celebrated the news that they wanted to close the school on the 100th year anniversary of its opening, but the motivation for the closure was hardly a reckoning with the sins of the past. And let me tell you, it was war. We were up against a major Florida land corporation, the Collier Group. They were interested in a complex land swap whereby they would give up surface rights to swampland in South Florida that they cheaply acquired many decades ago. In exchange, the federal government would hand over the Phoenix Indian School property to the Colliers so they could build fancy multi-million-dollar rich whatevers for rich people to live and work in. We disagree that these 73 acres of land should be commodified, developed. We want the property to be a park, a cultural center, the headquarters for a Native nonprofit that can provide community service to the Native population here in Phoenix. We won. The elders were thrilled, the community celebrated.
What I loved most about the play, I think it's perseverance and the boarding school experience that Mom lived through that helped, that didn't destroy her, but helped shape her activism. To me, that was kind of my favorite part, the fact that it wasn't until long after she died that I knew how many times she ran away from boarding school. She ran away 8 times and only got away the 8th time. I had heard bits and pieces from Mom when she'd share about her experience, but like most folks who had difficult boarding school experiences, and not everybody had, the boarding school experience isn't uniform, but when Mom would share little snippets of the difficulties she had, she would just share small snippets. And so I didn't really realize how deep the struggle was just to get away from that school until we started going back through some of those original source documents and to see what Mom became despite those challenges, that was my favorite part, the boarding school period. You know, Mom passed away in '97. The bulk of the effort to preserve the land as public land was achieved in her lifetime. But that was only half of what Mom and other folks in the grassroots community were fighting for. Unfortunately, the second half didn't fully get to be achieved. And the dream of many of the folks who were part of the Native American Heritage Preservation Coalition was to not just preserve the land for public use, but really to have the land be a native services hub where there could be cultural programming, healthcare provided, you know, a whole litany of social services provided. That part never fully happened. We got close. Many of the nonprofits in the Valley set up shop and joined forces next door. But to really kind of recount the property's place in history as a place of survival and rebirth, the idea was that it would be kind of a native embassy for the community that built that property. And so, yeah, it's a huge part of the story, but to really kind of recount the property's place in history as a place of survival and rebirth, the idea was that it would be kind of a native embassy for the community that built that property. And so, yeah, it's a huge part of the story of the Valley, but also a huge part of the Indian school story. But just knowing where Mom's heart was, I get sad that more didn't happen.
In Phoenix, Arizona, Mark Trahant, ICT News.
Dalton Walker is ICT's managing editor. He lives and works in the Phoenix area, but recently returned home from a trip to his homelands on the Red Lake Nation in Minnesota. And Dalton joins me now in the studio. Hey, Dalton, it's nice to see you.
Bonjour, Leah. Thanks for having me.
We know that every trip home that you go to, you learn something new. So tell us about what you learned this time.
It was a beautiful trip. I haven't been back home 2019 roughly, and then during the pandemic, you could see from the outside kind of the dangers and what the tribe was doing. So I made it a priority not to go home. And now I was able to go back. And when you go back, you plan to see a lot of people. It never happens. Time's always really fast. But you always make it a priority to see the land and the water, the trees. I might sound a little weird, but that was one of my favorite parts, just being there amongst stuff I grew up with.
I'm glad that you mentioned the land because your people have a deep connection to water and to rice. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is the season of harvesting Monoman wild rice, all the Ojibwe bands, some of the Dakota, but the whole Midwest. There's a lot of water, there's a lot of wild rice beds, and so this is the season people are gathering, harvesting, and getting ready to basically eat the good meal. Back home in the Red Lake, we don't do it as much. We just have a giant lake, which also has this fish that we harvest called walleye. So a lot of people were actually fishing. It's fishing season, so people gather that, and that's just a part of the whole experience too for a lot of Ojibwe people up there.
A few days ago in the online messaging system that we use at ICT, you sent a picture of a bear trap, and all of our minds were blown. Tell us about this bear trap.
It was very common to see a lot of black bears back home growing up. Like, it wasn't even a big deal, honestly. Just like a res dog, you would see them, you wouldn't bother them. They usually wouldn't bother you, but it's also kind of dangerous at times. In some places you see them, they come up to your house, they try to pick at your yard. Sometimes you might have a garden, sometimes you might be like cleaning up trash, so they're kind of just sniffing around. My mom has a trap because there was one hanging out during the spring after hibernation for a while. Unfortunately, maybe fortunately, I didn't see it and it hasn't been there for a while, but this little trap set up where they would potentially walk into it and then they would be taken away by the Natural Resources Department.
Are people in the community scared of these bears?
I think growing up there, you kind of have an idea what you shouldn't and shouldn't do amongst bears or even wildlife in general. So I would say probably not, but you're not going to go there, try to feed them or try to catch a viral photo. That's not what people do there. And they just keep their distance. I was lucky to see one bear when I was back home. Usually I see a lot, but I saw one. It ran across the road, wasn't bothering anybody. There was a dog about 100 yards away barking from afar, but that was it.
Did your mom name this bear?
She didn't come up with a name. Actually, I didn't even ask if she had a name of the bear, but she said it was a bear, and I believe even some cubs, but it's not rare. Each year, bears go through her yard because she lives really ultra-rural by the northern lake shore, so it's common to see wildlife, bears, sometimes porcupines, deer. They stick around, sometimes they just go through.
Well, Dalton Walker, I love this conversation about bears. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Miigwech, Leah, it was my pleasure.
Next time on the ICT Newscast, we will check in with an East Coast tribe that's growing its land base. And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.